Hello, welcome to a book obsession. I'm Ashley Gunn. Today we are going to do a book review of a historical romance. It's Morning Glory by LaVryle Spencer. Hopefully I didn't butcher her name too bad. It's going to be on the cover when I put up the picture of her book. This is like I said, historical romance. Takes place in about World War II time. You have a woman named Emmy, and you're going to feel like this book has 2 or 3 stories in it because Emmy's entire childhood itself could be its own book. Will has a very interesting life that he lives before meeting Emmy, but when they are together, he's going to go off to war. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That could be its own story, and then their lives together could be their own story. So you're definitely going to get your money's worth with this book. It really felt like a whole bunch of different books. Okay, so like I said, we have Emmy, and she's going to grow up in a house. It's almost a shut-in. Her mother got pregnant out of wedlock and basically embarrassed her grandparents from having to come home with this baby. And so they kind of keep her as a shut-in until the principal comes by and tells her that he's going to get the sheriff involved if she doesn't go to school. So Emmy has a really hard time in school because everyone thinks she's weird and her family's weird. They know kind of her situation, and on top of that, she lacks social skills because she's a shut-in and doesn't really talk to anybody, as well as her grandparents make her feel like there's something wrong with her, and she doesn't completely understand why. So Emmy's childhood is going to be a huge portion of this book, and itself is something I don't think I've ever read anything like that before. Very interesting. Then you have Will. Will went to prison, served his time, and when he got out, people treated him like they didn't want him around. So he would get jobs and then lose jobs because they found out he was in prison. People wouldn't want him around their houses, their children, and it didn't matter that he served his time or why he went to prison. To them, he was an outcast. Eventually, Will and Emmy's paths cross, and this happens when Emmy puts an ad out for a husband because her husband dies. Eventually, even though she had kind of a crazy childhood, she did get married. She had 2 children, and she's pregnant, and then her husband died because of bee stings. They have a ranch where they have an orchard, beehives, and a lot of junk and some animals, and they make, they sell their eggs, they sell their milk, they sell honey, those types of things, and unfortunately her husband passes away, leaving this huge amount of work for her to do by herself and raise these children and be pregnant. So Will comes along. At the beginning, I love that LaVryle made it where Will and Emmy didn't just click and decide they're getting married. Actually, he showed up, and even though marriage was on the table from the ad, they decided that instead they were going to see how everything worked out and what everyone was interested in. So Will decides to live in the barn. He does end up helping and becomes basically a part of the family. He doesn't have any children, so you have to figure out how he's going to interact with Emmy's children, how he's going to feel about raising another person's baby. And then I think that during that time, it also gives Emmy an opportunity to find out if this prisoner, because Will is honest about the fact that he has a past, really is the man that he says he is. And eventually everything does work out, and then Will goes to war. And that's why I'm telling you that it feels like you're reading a lot of different books. It's really amazingly well written. When Will goes to war, my favorite part is that the way the story is written completely shifts. So now their story, for the most part, is going to take place in letters. His letters to her telling him telling her what he's going through, and then her letters to him saying what she's going through. It's amazing. I loved that part. It felt like a break from the traditional writing styles. I cannot tell you how much I love that. Then Will gets back from war and the book still doesn't end. Then you have an entire 3rd act of their lives together, which is when he gets back, he does suffer from a little PTSD. I thought it was interesting that even though this is World War II times, you bring up PTSD because this is not a modern time illness. This is something that everyone suffered from, but maybe they weren't diagnosed with it or treated properly. I wouldn't say he suffers from a severe case, but it definitely it sticks with him. And then, during the war times, some of the letters that the librarian, which is where he ends up working for the librarian, being a janitor eventually, and so when he goes off to war, the librarian and him write letters back and forth. I wanted to throw that out there. Sorry if that's kind of spontaneous. Anyways, the librarian talks to him about more things that are going on in the town versus his family. And it's really interesting because she talks about how fabric has been rationed so they can no longer put cuffs and pockets on suits for men, how things in the town are getting taken away to be smelted into weapons, sugar being rationed, and things like that. It was just absolutely amazingly well done. I loved this book. The end of the book, that third act, ends up bringing the book full circle. This part is going to be about something happening in the town and Will being basically set up for it because of his history in prison. And so it's really interesting because this covers everything. Like I said, this book could be a series. You are going to love it. If you love historical romances, absolutely amazing. I wouldn't say that it focuses a lot on the romance because, like I said, you're going to learn about each one of their childhoods. The main point of this book is not self-esteem, but I definitely see that underlying topic because the majority of this book is her not feeling like she has enough to offer him, and Will feeling like between his past and the fact that he lives in a barn with nothing, he doesn't have enough to offer her. Like I said, when he got that job as the janitor for the library, it gave him meaning. Even though it was a janitor job, he felt like it was amazing to have someone trust him and not try and run him out of town. You're going to love this book. Honestly, I happened to run across it and I cannot wait to read all of her books. It was absolutely amazing. So again, that's Morning Glory. If you like this review, go ahead and like it. If you have any questions or comments, leave that down below. If you want my reviews every Tuesdays and Thursdays, then go ahead and subscribe. Thank you all for joining me.